Hey there, and welcome to the Casper Podcast. We're your hosts, Joe and Matt, and we're here to take you on a journey through the exciting world of blockchain technology. We'll be exploring the cutting edge of this game-changing tech and chatting with the brilliant minds who are building the decentralized web of the future. Today, we're thrilled to have Karol Marter join us as our special guest. Karol is a true visionary in the world of blockchain and has been ahead of the curve in envisioning the transformative power of authentic digital ownership for entire industries. He's a seasoned programmer and smart contract expert who is now exploring the full potential of Casper. So sit back, relax, and get ready to dive down the rabbit hole with us as we chat with Karol about all things blockchain. And if you find our conversation valuable, be sure to subscribe, leave us a voice message for a chance to be featured in a future episode. And I believe, Matt, you have an interesting story about how Karol was introduced to Casper.
It's actually quite funny. Karol and I met because he moved into my building, and downstairs there's a pool table and a little recreational co-working space kind of thing. And we're talking, and he says blockchain. And from there, we started developing a friendship, casually. And this is how so many of my past projects have kind of unfolded. And he's become quite savvy with the Casper protocol today. And he and I are similar. We both fell into this kind of distributed ledger technology ecosystem. So, hey, look, I'll let you tell about your background.
We know each other, like you said, for over a year already. I was doing some corporate programming for different companies in enterprise software space around 2016, 17. I was watching this blockchain phenomenon and I was like, that's pretty cool. I would really like to be a part of that. And I started researching what kind of blockchains there are. The thing really blew my mind because sure, crypto, that's one thing, but my motivation wasn't purely crypto. It was the technology in itself, like blockchain. It was okay, what can we do with it? Where can it help us? And from there, it developed into this hobby that I'm still doing now.
That's really interesting, Karol, because this idea of the technology underlying blockchain is what drew you in. And maybe you could quickly talk about that first use case that you thought about, because it really kind of underscores the real world application of NFT technology, yeah?
The first thing that I was thinking of was peer-to-peer networks and how can we use those to exchange value and what can we do with that? So because I was really into watches and assets of that kind of stature, I was wouldn't it be cool to allow people to exchange, for example, watches like Breitling or Rolex on the blockchain, real assets. So that was the main idea of the thing that I built. It was already in 2017, so that was before everyone was talking about putting real assets on the blockchain.
And one thing that's really fascinating about this perspective, by the way, because, my background is more high finance, and I've talked to some folks a lot older than I where they see the potential with distributed ledger technology and this idea of basically everything is FX. Now, obviously, that's a very mature version, but if you think about it at the core, Karol, this is kind of what you're talking about in its early days. You say, hey, you got a watch, it's a Rolex, you prove authenticity and ownership, and you can transfer it for either something that is less liquid or something that is really liquid, up to you because you're trading and you can set those parameters.
Yeah, true. And Breitling, for example, already has a program using NFTs. So we can say 5 years ago that I was thinking about it and doing it as a prototype, it came really to fruition because Breitling, for example, really uses that technology now. So I think it's awesome.
That's amazing that you had that foresight in what was coming at the time. But I do have a question, in your opinion, what are some of the most exciting and innovative uses that we have yet to kind of discover? What are you excited about?
I think that the main driving force for blockchain will be financial markets, more transparency, and that's where we're heading, I think.
I echo Karol on this in the sense that distributed ledger technology to me is an accounting mechanism. And if you can add transparency and what we internally fundamentally believe is which you have to stuff the logic of the cash flows into that token to actually make it even more valuable. We won't talk about that at this point, but these capabilities are really augmenting and truly novel and excite me as an industry professional. And I'm sure Karol as well.
Karol, in your opinion, though, what do you see as the biggest misconceptions about blockchain or cryptocurrency that you encounter when you tell people, hey, I'm working in blockchain?
I think the biggest misconception is like blockchain equals crypto, but ultimately it's not about crypto. People think it's a scam where they can get scammed or where many bad actors reside. We're trying to leave that space behind us and we're trying to move to the more professional space.
I know a lot of developers are looking at the blockchain industry, seeing it largely as the crypto industry. What would your advice be for developers, especially developers that are looking to get into building decentralized applications? What's the path of, most potential here?
People shouldn't be afraid of the blockchain programming languages or smart contracts because the principles are there. Like the software engineering principles on blockchain are also the same as normal programming that we do in enterprise spaces. So people who are afraid to go into that space really shouldn't be afraid because those are the same kind of tools that we use in the enterprise space.
You said something very interesting to me, which is the enterprise grade environments, right? What can you say about the industrial grade, enterprise level software environments and what you're seeing and how you might be involved in that on the Casper network?
Well, the main thing about the enterprise grade level software is that it's very organized and it's very well structured. So that's what we are seeing also here in Casper. And because it's Rust, it's highly efficient.
And Karol, do you also agree that because different big chains out there who are using different languages, whether it's Rust or a Haskell, right? Eventually, very soon, actually, the ones that have real traction will then create points of interoperability because it will become kind of standard. Like everyone knows Java, for example, the famous Steve Jobs, why not OpenDoc?
That interoperability has been a very big emphasis on many, many levels in many projects. So I think we will end up at a scenario where we could have like 5, 6 main blockchain environments. And that's where we're heading, I think.
So Karol, we're talking about like very serious, technological discussion here, also like enterprises. And the reality is a lot of people like to get involved in blockchain, the mainstream consumer. We've already seen the hype around NFTs, and to a large extent, NFTs are the first entry point to blockchain for a lot of people. Are you of the belief that NFTs have a future? Can you speak to that? Are you still interested in the potential of NFTs? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, that's a pretty interesting topic. I think NFTs will go in the way of utility. So you can't have an NFT without utility. We also see many big players going into the NFT market like Breitling or even Porsche. I see the potential and I think that we will be going in that direction because if we weren't, just to be honest, those big players wouldn't be doing it.
Very interesting. So, I'm a big believer in NFTs myself, and I'm very interested in how developers see the potential because, again, at its core, it's smart contracts, right? And at some point in the future, even the NFTs that have seen success in this hype cycle can and likely will still benefit from whatever utility you can add to it. And it's a very interesting thing around Casper where we are opening up our NFT standards and introducing capabilities like multi-signature access, weighted account management. So these types of concepts really are powerful concepts to enable new kinds of coordination, new kinds of incentivizing communities, And NFTs are at the core of those things. So it's a very exciting landscape to be playing in because it is very new and there's a lot of potential. And we're really looking forward to seeing more of your input within the NFT space. Anything else you want to leave us with, Karol?
I think there are great things that await the blockchain space. So I'll be waiting and rooting for all of us, I guess.
What do you think, Matt?
As I learned in my young auditor days, if it's not documented, it didn't happen. And when someone tells you something that you can't do it twice and take pictures.
Thanks, Karol.
Thanks for having me.